It's trending Tuesdays, where the culture meets the conversation. Yeah. Every Tuesday we're setting the tone. Latest trends, let it be known. Voices rising, stories unfold. Thought-provoking, fresh and bold. From the mic to the movement we bring. Conversations that matter, hear wisdom sing. Insight, purpose, food for the soul. This is the place where ideas grow. It's trending Tuesday. Tune in, stay ready. Inspiration served hot, call it mostly green. With Chef Eddie. Redefining progress, changing the way we speak. Real talk, real life, every single week. Yeah. Oh, organic living, mind and play. Healthy conversations that elevate. From the kitchen to the culture we see. Growth, wellness and authenticity. Laugh, learn and be entertained. Meaningful dialogue, never the same. If it's trending, if it's true, we're bringing it straight to you. It's trending Tuesday. Tune in, stay ready. Inspiration served hot, call it mostly green. With Chef Eddie. Redefining podcasts, changing the way we speak. Real talk, real life, every single week. Yeah. Sponsored by Danny Davis and KDA TC, building community. Yeah. Inspiring change.
Well, hello, and welcome to Trending Tuesdays. We're right here in Sunnyside, in the District of Destination. I am Councilmember Carolyn Evans-Shabazz, the council member for District D, for the District of Destination, and I'm so very glad to be here. Trending Tuesdays is our community podcast brought to you by our friends at K Davis in the community, here at K Davis and Mostly Green Showroom. And I'm telling you, those Mostly Greens are really, really good. So if you get the chance to come over, you can get a good podcast, a good word, and a wonderful meal. Certainly, I'm very, very honored to be here today. And it is Women's History Month, right? Now, we're going to start out with the women. Now, there is a man that's going to come a little bit later. Yeah, I know. But then we have some wonderful women here who are currently on the ballot right now that are running for different positions. And so certainly we're going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. And we're going to start out with Dr. Letitia Plummer. Dr. Plummer also is a former colleague on the city council. She was a city council member, and she stepped away from council to move to a higher calling. And so certainly she's a dentist also. And so certainly, tell us, can you make that connection with being a dentist and now being in the political realm?
Actually, first of all, this is so great to be with my colleagues here today, and obviously it's, you're my neighbor on council, so it was always nice to kind of lean in and say hello to you. Really, there's no correlation. I kind of got thrown into politics because of a personal challenge I experienced, and I never thought that I'd be in the political space, although my grandfather was he was a civil rights attorney. He actually desegregated the Harris County cafeteria. My grandmother was an educator. My brother's godfather was Mickey Leland, the late Mickey Leland. So politics was always around me, but I never thought for one moment that I would be in the space. But ironically, I think that it levels a lot, because I think to be a good, effective leader, you have to listen. To be a doctor, you have to listen. And one difference I would say is that in politics, we kick the can down the road. We don't really it takes us a long time to get things done. As a doctor, you have to fix the problem immediately. So that was a bit of a challenge there, but I think that being a doctor has allowed me to be a really good elected official. I think the level of compassion and the just get it done kind of attitude has allowed me to do a really great job, I believe.
Well, actually, you did bring that with you because you didn't like kicking the can down the road.
No, I did
in
not.
most instances. Okay, so certainly I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, of course.
And I know if you know people that are running for office, very seldom can they sit there the entire time that they are designated to. Some of us can stay a little longer, and I'm really happy about that. But we're going to start out with Dr. Plummer. And voters in Harris County are looking at two candidates with two different backgrounds, yourself and former Mayor Anise Parker. How would you describe the key differences in your experience, and why do you believe your leadership style is what the county needs right now?
Absolutely. I think the key piece that really differentiates us is the fact that she's a lifelong politician. She was in politics for, I think, 18 years. She served in multiple spaces. A lot of folks would think that that was a benefit or a plus. I just think that works against us now. If you see what's happening across the state and the nation, people really want regular folks that obviously have the experience, which I will mention, to be able to listen and get things done. And I think that when you're in that political bubble for a long period of time, I think it's a challenge because you're very disconnected with what communities actually need. And so my time as a small business owner, 25 years, managing teams, managing staff, my medical background with the challenges that we're seeing in terms of access to health care, being able to serve on council for 2 terms at large, which meant that I got to focus on the issues I wanted to focus on because, obviously community drove those issues. And then being a mom, being a person of color, I think really makes a difference for me because we are living in the most diverse county in the nation. So really understanding what people of color need at this moment in time. And honestly, I think when you're in politics, you vote in ways and you make mistakes. I think that Anise Parker supported the HSD bond. She supported the takeover. There is information that she supported ICE. A couple, in her Instagram posts. She was the one that put forward the homeless initiative to cost fines to feed the homeless. You and I served under Mayor Turner, and there were many people that were fined at the library. So I think the decisions that she made as an elected official really have followed her forward. And she's been gone for 10 years. I tell this to folks all the time. If you were an owner of a business and someone brought you a resume and there was a 10-year gap there, would that person be effective? Would you hire that person? No, they would wonder, what have you been doing in that 10 years? And how are you able to bring your dated information, your dated experience to the conversation? And so I think that I am incredibly well equipped day one to get this job done. I'm a visionary. I don't take no for an answer. I push, and I push, and you know. And maybe some people may feel like that's a challenge, but I think that one thing that you and I both understand is that folks have elected us. And I think what you're seeing right now is a shift happening where there's now not just an election, there's now an expectation of getting it done. And I believe that I'm not going to be status quo, and I'm going to work my hardest to make sure community gets what they need.
Okay. Well, thank you. And we may have to invite the former mayor here so she can give her perspective as well. And so Harris County is facing real budget pressures, from infrastructure needs to public safety investments. What is your concrete plan to manage the county's budget responsibly while still delivering essential services, especially for the underserved communities?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, as we served on city council, we know we've been in a high level of budget constraints. One piece I would like to look at is more shared services. We talked a lot about this when we were on council. We actually have started some of them. We're working with Briones right now. We're on parks and shared responsibilities on parks. My suggestions are maybe looking at libraries. Is there a way that we can share services in that space as well? The Harris Health System is obviously a catch-all and catch-net for our folks that don't have insurance, but maybe the health departments can work together to make sure that there are services that we can do that maybe we overlap. And then BARC, right? Our challenges that we're seeing with our animal challenges that we're seeing in the county in general. I think there are some spaces there as well. We are not doing a very good job from the place of procurement, and so I would love to look at procurement and how we can, look at those numbers and how we're spending those dollars. And and really just trying to find a way, people come in and give us recommendations. Our consultants come in and give us recommendations, and we spend millions of dollars on getting it done. By the time it's time to execute that contribution or that particular program, it's now dated. And so we saw this at the same thing in the city. We do it over and over and over again. So really looking at how consultants work with the county and seeing if there are ways in which we can make that happen. One, not mistake, but one thing that I would probably have done differently is when they gave that large raise to the sheriffs and the constables. There are about 2 million people in the county that are unincorporated, so they really depend on that public safety space. I would have looked at it a bit differently. I would have probably phased that in the same way that we did the raises with the police department. I don't know if I would have done that all at one time. But not making decisions like, I know a lot of folks are talking about the Astrodome. Do we really need to spend $750 million?
I miss Astroworld.
I know, I do too. I remember Astroworld.
Oh my goodness, I worked at Astroworld about 5 minutes.
I did too.
And I loved it, all the 5 minutes that I was there.
I did too, but I think that voters are concerned when we pass these bond dollars and we're expecting them to see things done. We're seeing it at LBJ. We're seeing it with Harris County flood. We're always kind of falling short. And we can't keep on going back to voters and saying we just need a little bit more. And so I believe that what we're going to have to do is, we've had families and raised kids, and one thing that I always say, sometimes it's a point where we're just going to get what we need. This is not what we want. There's a needs list, and right now at the county, it's what we need and what we need to focus on. And I think that if we come together, we work with all the other commissioners, there is a way in which we can shorten that gap. And then I know we're going to talk about, maybe some things with the jail system, but we're spending $54 million annually sending people out to, Mississippi and Louisiana. How can we look at that differently? And so there's some spaces there where we can tighten up the budget a little bit and make sure that we don't lose the social opportunities that we have.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask you, if you're elected, what are the very first actions you would take on day one in the office? And how do those steps set the tone for the kind of administration you want to run?
So I'm going to run an incredibly transparent I will be an incredibly transparent leader. There are 2 things that I want to make sure we do first. My main job, and a lot of maybe our listeners don't know, but the main job of the county judge is disaster recovery and resiliency. That's the main job. And so I want to put together, I call them lily pads, and we had that kind of same concept at the city, but we didn't do a really good job implementing it. And so my lily pads are basically in disaster recovery, being prepared for the storm and making sure it has a resiliency arm in terms of generation, right? So making sure there's a generator of some sort, making sure there's a food arm there, ensuring that FEMA and all the other partners are there as well to where they are ready to go when we have a disaster so our residents don't have to go through the challenges that they're seeing. And the last piece is that medical piece. We've got to make sure that we have a medical arm to that lily pad. Now, I call them lily pads because lily pads don't stay in one place. We never know where the storm is going to hit. And so these will be pre-stationed, they'll be ready to go. At the moment a storm is coming, we will move those into areas. As you know, and we all know, folks, the cavalry doesn't come for about 72 hours, right? These lily pads will make sure that these communities are able to thrive. The second piece I will do on day one is really look at the county jail. There's some real challenges that we're seeing there. We have about 9,000 inmates, 1,500 of them are shipped out. We spend about $25,000 for about a 6-month period for the inmate to be there. We could spend that money and resources in so many other ways. So really looking at diversion programs, really ensuring that nonviolent offenders have an opportunity to get vocational training, to be able to get their GED, and allow them, when they get out of that situation, allow them to be able to thrive. And if we could stop shipping them out to different states, we could hold that money in. If those are nonviolent offenders, we can put together some programs to give them the support that they need. Those are 2 issues I want to look at day one, because I believe that every person deserves a second chance, and I want to make sure that we're prepared for a disaster.
Thank you. Thank you. And these ladies have been sitting here patiently.
We're listening.
And certainly, I really appreciate it. And so we're going to move on now to attorney and council member Abby Kamen. She has just been a blessing to me and to council as well. And I want to say she's a native Houstonian and a civil rights attorney who has served on the city council, and she's known for her work in public safety, climate resilience, and advocating for women and families. And she's currently a candidate for Harris County Attorney. And so let us get to know something about you that may be a little personal. I'm going to start out and say she's somewhat of a new mom, and not new anymore. How old is he now?
So Slade just turned 5.
Oh my God!
And
she had Slade when she was first on council, and now she said, I gotta call him. You know, she has to make sure still that he, you know, that the daddy puts him to bed and all of that. And so she's really, really juggling. And so I'm very happy that you were able to join us. And so, you know, you and I partnered on an issue with the Department of Justice. You may want to share a little something about that.
No, I appreciate it. And first, a shout out to our fabulous special host for the evening. He's doing a fabulous job. And I did also, this is my first time here, so I wanted to give a huge thank you to Danette for Trending Tuesdays, and because it's Women's History Month, I also get to say her husband, right? Normally it's you name the husband and then his wife, but Danette's the powerhouse, but Chef Eddie.
She's definitely a Danette.
Powerhouse.
And he's the husband.
But we're in the KDA showroom.
The cooking husband.
The cooking husband.
That's an asset.
We're at the KDA showroom. It is incredible, this space here. And Chef Eddie has his Mostly Greens company. So I got the tour earlier. He's doing all the meal prep. There's special events that can be had here, and the nicest bathrooms I've ever seen. So just a shout out to everyone that brings this together. But it was, one, thank you for mentioning all the juggling that council members and elected officials have to do, and so many working families have to do. And we have a lot of fierce moms that have served on council and continue to serve on council, but being the first pregnant woman to serve really opened my eyes to a lot of challenges, again, that our working families experience. So yes, we call Slade our council baby, and he's 5 now, but the work continues to fight for families. And I so appreciate when we got to partner, right when we came into office. Being an attorney, you're looking at every contract. That's one of the reasons I'm running for Harris County Attorney, and I hope we can talk about what that is, because a lot of people don't know. But on council, we have some really big, exciting items that come up, but we also have like standard contracts. And one time, as you know, Councilmember Evan Shabazz, a tire retreading contract came before council, and that is like the least sexiest thing you can think of, right? A tire retreading, replacement of tires. But what we saw was, well, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice got the contract. Bidding in government, right, you go with, unless it's a specialized service, you go with the lowest bidder. That's how it works. Well, why would the TDCJ be the lowest bidder? Because they don't pay for labor. It is unpaid prison, and I will say modern day slave labor. And what we did in teaming up, I reached out to you and I said, hey, we got an issue with this contract. This is wrong. And we worked with Mayor Turner, and we not only sent that contract back and said, no, we want nothing to do with this. And y'all should have been on the phone with me and Councilmember Evan Shabazz with TDCJ, right? Like going to bat, fighting over this, because it's just wrong. And Texas is one of only, I think, 3 or 4 states in the nation that allows this. And if you talk about the privatization of our jails and our prisons, if you talk about just this pipeline and what that is, this is that example. And we said no, and we said enough, and we actually made it so that in city contracts moving forward, everyone has to be paid. That's a requirement. So TDCJ cannot participate now in those contracts. And again, coming right into office, we were like, no.
We were so fired up. I was looking for somebody in a black car to come and pull me out of my house. I mean, we were really, really fired up about that. And I don't know if you all really can grasp what that means. When our inmates don't get money, they can't even make a phone call. They can't even buy a birthday card for their children. They are so limited because everybody doesn't come to prison with somebody putting money on their books.
Right.
That's just real. Sometimes people are basically thrown away, so to speak, and they are there, and unless they are given some kind of privilege from, TDCJ, then they are really there, and they are, they can't really function as far as a phone call or anything. So that right there, when she brought that to me, I was like, what? What are you talking about? And we're not even talking about a lot of money. It was, it's like some people, they may pay 25 cents. It's not a whole lot. But give them something. Give them some value to what they are doing. And I'm not on the ballot, so I'm going to just move on with this.
No,
but certainly, I'm very passionate about that.
It's important because, again, it's not about not saying we don't need job training in our prisons. We need to reduce recidivism. We need to be doing everything we can to support families. But at the same time, every single person deserves to be paid for their labor.
And then when they get out, you want to have them have that mindset that I'm working and I'm getting something. You want to change the mindset that you're going to just get out there and take it and hustle. And so it's not a lot, but it means an awful lot. And we have really tried to push, with the state, because it has to be changed on the state level. It's nothing we can actually do in council, but we can push back on contracts and say that no, not for us. We don't want to do business with people who do not treat people fairly. So I'm really, really happy that we were able to partner on that. I'm telling you, y'all, I was looking out of my driveway. Are they coming? Anyway, certainly you have been on the forefront regarding domestic violence and gun violence prevention. And so you want to talk about that, your creation of Safe Watch Houston, and which was the first of its kind firearm injury dashboard. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
And the reason I ask, so they always say, hey, what kind of topics do you want to discuss? And we're in the middle of campaign season, and I'm honored to be the Democratic nominee for Harris County Attorney.
Say that again. Democratic nominee
for Harris
Democratic
County
nominee. Dr. Plummer's in a runoff
Yes.
with another Democrat, but Councilmember Kamen is actually the nominee for the Democratic Party.
Yes, and honored to be so, but I'm still serving on City Council, and we are not letting up one beat. I have staff in the audience. They are crushing it. I'm very grateful to them. But there's resources that are still available that I want residents to know about. And one of the things that we have continued to focus on is gun violence and domestic violence. And there is an absolute nexus. So one is supporting domestic violence survivors and lifting them up. And we've had lots of programs at the city to do so, but we need more. And the pandemic really opened our eyes to a lot of that because it was the shadow pandemic where survivors were trapped at home with their abusers. And for children, a lot of people don't realize your teachers in schools are the eyes and ears reporting on that. Another nexus, sidebar with county attorney's office, the county attorney is actually responsible for representing the state in all DFPS cases, so CPS and APS, and that doesn't get enough attention. But at the city, what we focused on was one, adding to the mayor's office against human trafficking, the charge of domestic violence, and that is a permanent office. At the same time, 1 in 4, let me frame it this way, a firearm in a domestic violence situation will make it 5 times more lethal. And every time we see on the news something like murder-suicide, right? It's a headline of murder-suicide. What is that? Most likely domestic violence. And we need to call it what it is because we need to educate people and we need to provide those resources. But when it comes to firearms, we are seeing not just the nexus with domestic violence, but also unintentional shootings of children. So many times it's a headline of little kid was playing in the car, there was a gun right in a glove box or under the seat, accidentally either shot themselves or someone else. There was a headline recently with a law enforcement officer in a different jurisdiction, child got a gun in the home. Over and over and over again. And that is something that every single person can do. And even if you don't have children, I know every single person has either had their car broken into or knows someone that has. What are they looking for most of the time? A gun. It takes 3 to 5 seconds to steal a gun out of a car. That's a gun on the street that shouldn't be there. So we do safe storage initiatives. We go and talk to PTOs, but we also are in the community, and we've now expanded citywide. So if any resident is interested in having us come talk with, we go with HPD, we go with volunteers from Be Smart and others to educate about safe storage, because we have to destigmatize it. So parents or grandparents, when you're going and dropping off your kid to go on a play date or go to someone's house, are you asking, hey, do you have a firearm in the home? Is it safely and securely stored? And we give away free gun locks and gun safes to do that. But in talking with so many people, I remember I was at Rice University a few years ago on a panel, and I turned to some of the trauma surgeons and experts that were on there, and they see these injuries every single day. And they said, I asked, what do you need? What do we do to deal with this? And they said, what we need is the data. We need a comprehensive firearm injury dashboard. And previously it's been lifted, but Congress was prohibited the CDC from actually obtaining the data as it pertains to injuries from guns. So we know how many deaths there are, and firearms are the #1 cause of death for children in the United States. Let that sink in. But we don't know how many injuries there are, and most people don't realize, what do you mean you don't know how many injuries are? We don't know how many injuries there are, and we don't have the data. You can't do health-based interventions. So when you think about when car crashes were the #1 killer of children, we did studies, we implemented new rules and regulations, and we're not talking about regulation, we're just talking about the data. So I teamed up with all 3 of our level 1 trauma centers in TMC, with the medical examiner's office, with other entities, and we are, for the first time in this country, have combined all of the data. Think about that. We now have TMC data, and if y'all think like government politics are real, try working with a bunch of hospitals to get those contracts and MOUs going to share that data. But it's called Safe Watch Houston. We launched in December, the first of its kind in the country, and this is a public dashboard, which is why I bring it up. You can go to the City Health Department, Safe Watch Houston, and actually look. It's all scrubbed, no personal information, it's HIPAA compliant, but you can look at zip codes. You can look at age. You can look at all these different factors. So in a suburb, it may be a higher rate of suicide for veterans. For another part of the city, it may be we're seeing too many children getting a hold of guns. But that means that we can now work with pediatricians. We can work with our health departments and do education, just like we do preventative screenings when a child comes in for other things. Those pediatricians can talk to those parents. So it's about prevention and all of us working together. Safe Watch Houston.
Well, you know, when you were talking about COVID and domestic abuse, certainly tensions rose in the houses where the people lived. They were losing income and all of that. And you know, that's one of the biggest things that people argue and fight about is money. And so certainly going through that time, it was very different. I don't think any other elected body really understands what we had to deal with. And so certainly, you know, I'm gonna say, both of you, I will miss. Now, she lives around the corner from me, so I could get her to maybe have a party or something right around that beautiful new home that she has. But I'm certainly gonna miss you, and we'll have to stay in touch.
Well, I'm not going very far, and we're gonna have a lot of opportunities to work together and fight for good together.
Yes, absolutely. So again, I don't know if you want to say anything about your ICE proposal. I know both of you were working to try to get something changed in regards to ICE and the interaction.
Yeah.
Did you want to say a little about that?
Happy to, just so residents know what's going on, and you're welcome. We encourage you to engage on this issue. Please use your voice, and for all of those that are using their voice to stand up for our immigrant community. Oftentimes people that aren't able to speak out right now, I want to make sure that we are speaking for them. And Councilmember Evan Shabazz, you have been at the forefront of this fight too. And I want to recognize that. You have been very vocal and very strong on this issue, and we can't do it without you. But the most recent proposal was brought forward through Proposition A. And what it does, you hear the word, right, we've heard a lot in headlines, warrants. You know, if someone has a warrant for their arrest, then HPD is contacting ICE. Well, one, I want to recognize local law enforcement and the important role that they play in keeping the community safe, and we appreciate them. At the same time, what's happening is ICE, which is a rogue federal agency of highly untrained, unskilled individuals that do
And
not
now they're
have...
serving as TSA, right?
Correct, but they're just standing there. They're not actually helping the employees that aren't getting a paycheck, right? And we want to thank our federal employees that are serving in very, very strenuous circumstances and unfair circumstances. But when it comes to ICE, an administrative warrant is somewhat of a misnomer. It's a civil, and Judge, I know you can speak to this too. It's a civil request that is done by the agency itself. So think about this, ICE agents are putting administrative warrants into a system that they dumped into a system that HPD and local law enforcement across the country uses. And they're coming up as warrants, but they're administrative warrants. So again, just to explain to people, an administrative warrant is a civil-based request. It is not reviewed by a third party. It is not reviewed by or signed by a judge. It has a much lower standard of the burden of proof, and basically ICE is writing these things on civil bases, immigration bases, dumping them into a system, and then when HPD does a legal stop, it's standard to do a warrant search. If somebody has an outstanding warrant and could pose a public safety risk, that needs to be addressed and taken seriously. But administrative warrants are not that. And what's happening is HPD is being required to contact ICE on an administrative warrant. And there's multiple issues with that, but for time's sake, the two kind of top issues are, one, it's an administrative warrant. Law enforcement, local law enforcement is already strained. They don't have time to be messing with this and playing the role of immigration enforcement and customs enforcement. They are local law enforcement. Two, there's a constitutional question. So if an officer pulls someone over under a legal, through a legal stop, as soon as they've been cleared, that person is free to leave. You do not have the right to say, you gotta wait here for ICE to come. The Constitution of the United States is not optional. And we are seeing over and over and over again the Trump administration disregarding the laws of this country, disregarding and disrespecting the Constitution of the United States. And what we know is happening right now is, especially with ICE, not local law enforcement, with ICE, illegal stops, racial profiling that is happening. We want nothing to do with that. And so
Well, that's how it kind of started out.
Right, and
Right
and
there,
this,
the
and,
racial profiling.
and this, because
Before
the state,
ICE,
yeah,
right.
because the state has put a lot of constraints on what cities can and can't do. We cannot prohibit law enforcement from contacting ICE, but we can say HPD can, at their may, at their discretion, determine whether to contact ICE under these administrative warrants. And that's what it aims to do. So it's not prohibiting HPD from doing something, and I want to be clear, because again, people will misconstrue and they'll say, oh, it's giving them discretion with what they know is best.
And I'm going to say, Dr. Plummer,
Yeah.
this was one of those issues. She didn't want to take no, but she had to leave, you know. So she kind of started out, and then the new Prop A has tweaked it a little bit. But I'm going to say that the mayor, I think he did listen, and I believe the way he has it, well, he kind of has a, you know, heavy is the head that wears a crown, right? He's trying to keep a lot of ICE interaction from coming to the city. And so it's like, I don't want to just say we're not going to comply. And so I think it was kind of the way he did it. Now they stop people and a timer starts ticking. And I made sure, I said, does it start as soon as you stop them? And what happens, now the officers are required to call a sergeant to the scene, and then the sergeant then calls ICE in a 30-minute window. In Houston, I believe he shared with me that they had 6 stops and none of them were arrested because of that. They couldn't do it. They couldn't get a a sergeant there. It's not that, I think it's like 70 sergeants in the city. They couldn't get a sergeant there, and then they don't have a lot of ICE. Well, they didn't. Now that they're at the airport with TSA, we have more now. But it's kind of trying to keep people from having to deal with ICE. It's like if they come, we don't want it to turn into something that could be very, very detrimental to the city.
But I will,
If I could add this, let me just say this, if
go
you
ahead.
don't mind, Councilmember.
Go ahead.
When I put the original ordinance forward, I think that the misunderstanding is that for a lot of people did not understand that we were really giving HPD more discretion. We're really, right?
would be needed.
Yeah, we're really telling them, we want you to be able to make the decision on what you feel. I mean, the reason why I brought up and put the Prop A, the original ICE Prop A forward was that domestic violence challenge. Remember the woman called HPD because she was in a domestic violence challenge and she got detained. Right. And so she was calling for help, and she was detained. And so those situations are not necessary. And if the original Prop A, my original Prop A, ICE ordinance was put forward, then the police officer at that moment could have made a decision on what they wanted to do. But I'm gonna take you back. So the whole driving while black, right?
Oh yeah, that's how it started.
That's how it all started, and that's
Yeah.
called the Kelly stop. When
Yeah.
you get stopped, and that's actual and real. When you get stopped, you should only be dealt with based on if it's a broken headlight or broken tail light, that's what you're being dealt with. But that kind of spiraled down to a search and a this and a that, and so it's all kind of all blended in. But I'm really glad that council has kind of taken this thing forward. I just honestly believe that a lot of our immigrant community really need a conversation about how this is affecting their lives.
yeah, and
I know we got some visits from Pure Justice.
Yes,
in
absolutely.
the beginning of the term.
Yeah.
And, I've always spoken out about stopping people for tail lights and inspection stickers and all that. Well, when you go through a toll, they send you a ticket in the mail.
That's
And you don't have to have the interaction with a police officer. And so those are some of the things I'm telling you. And when she says I've been speaking up, I thought I was going to have to go third ward in the third ward outside of Chambers when there were 5 women that came, and I kind of challenged them in their position because they don't understand what people are dealing with. They are going into horrific conditions. And that right there, and then also impress upon them that we as African Americans didn't get where we are without white people helping us to get there. And so we need that same compassion from them to help us to navigate through this, black and brown people. And so I think we would be better for it. But I do shudder to think if we just push back, what would happen, because we have a person in the White House who does not care about filling the city up with ICE.
But-
So we have to really, really be cognizant of that.
We
And
do.
I'm going to let you make a closing comment, and then
Final
I'm going to
word.
move on.
Yeah.
These 2 right here, we could go on a while. We'll be here the next Tuesday trending. And so go ahead.
Yeah, well, one, I want to say, especially for District D, to know that you have a fighter in Councilmember Carolyn Evans-Shabazz. When those women came to council, I nearly leaped out of my seat, but she was so on in terms of how she challenged what was a woman saying, well, she's been pulled over and they just asked for her ID, and then she's free to leave. And that is not the experience of black and brown communities.
That's right.
And that needs to be called out for what it is. And at the same time, we need to continue the fight, and the fight's not over. I do want to say, from a legal perspective, one of the concerns with the new HPD policy, and one of the reasons this came forward when it did, and I want to thank Councilmember Alejandra Salinas for her diligence, and Councilmember Ed Pollard signed on as well. You can't say, okay, well, for 30 minutes, we're going to allow you to be detained illegally. Like, there's no stopwatch on when the Constitution goes into effect and the Fourth Amendment goes into effect, right? So you can't say, oh, well, it's just for 30 minutes. Like, that's not there's significant legal concerns and questions that are being raised because of that. At the same time, the debate over, well, we don't want the heavy hand. I am unwilling, and I don't think that's what you're saying, council member, but I'm unwilling to allow Houstonians to be thrown under the bus in a hope and a prayer that it doesn't get worse. There are families that are suffering and struggling, and just because it's not like some smaller jurisdictions that are making the headlines for fighting back and then ICE coming in and doing horrific things, we are so spread out as a county. It's happening. We're just not seeing it as much. And that's one of the things as county attorney, I want to make sure that we have a portal where people can actually file complaints and videos. Because right now it's just on social media. There's nowhere for people to actually submit those complaints and what is happening. So I do want to say and recognize that there is profound suffering. We're suffering economically. We are suffering as a community, the most diverse city in the country. People are being forced into the shadows. Children are afraid to go to school. Parents aren't able to go to work. It's very real for a lot of people. Right. And we have to make sure that we are being their voice when they're not able to speak out. And I know you stand firmly in that belief of fighting for others. I know you do. We all do. And that's really a lot of what this is about, is making sure that we're doing the right thing for Houston.
And so stay tuned. I mean, it's not done yet, but everybody up there has a concern and a passion about what's going on. And so just kind of stay tuned, extend your right hand and pray for us. And certainly we're going to get there, and it's just the hearts of the people that we're trying to listen to and to be able to help serve. And speaking of hearts of the people, we're going to move on. Our next guest is Judge Sharon M. Burney, who currently serves as Justice of the Peace in Harris County Precinct 7, with a background as an attorney and an educator. She actually worked at the Jack Yates High School, okay? And if you know me, I'm JY for life, right? Right, Rashad? You got that? You got that over there? Okay. She is known for her commitment to fairness, community outreach, and expanding access to justice, and is now running for re-election. And so certainly we know how dynamic her mom was, Zanetta Burney, as judge. But we want to know what sets you apart. Not that you didn't have a great role model, but what maybe would set you apart?
Well, first I want to say I'm one of the people because I was raised in District D. District D is what I've known most of my life. And not only did I teach at Jack Yates, but I'm a graduate of Jack Yates. And that I learned from some of the best. And I'm also a graduate of the University of Houston, which is in Precinct 7. I'm a graduate of U of H. I took some classes at Rice. I did not graduate, but different classes. And I'm a graduate of Thurgood Marshall School of Law from TSU, and so I do know the law. However, I worked in education for over 25 years before I went to law school. So I really know it's Precinct 7 where I am. It's a little bit bigger than District D, but it does include District D. I also have worked most of my life in Houston County and Harris County and around. Not only did I work for HISD, Riverside Hospital, for the Lighted Schoolhouse, homeless children, all the things that I knew. Now, I love education and educating people, and one of the things about education and going to U of H, I got a master's in future studies to try to look at the future and what's coming about and how I can affect the future or what it is that I can do. At that time, I found out that HISD cared more that the future was computers and not the children. But I was trained to see organizational development and some of the changes that have come about. I was able to see coming, and I realized I told the children that I've got to go and do more with my life. And that's when I went to law school. Now, working in education makes me want to make sure that everybody's educated. You're as much a part as the children. I want to make sure that you know what's going on. And that is one of the reasons why I chose to run as judge. I've been there for 8 years. As she said, my mother was there for 15 years before, and I knew politics, and I knew my mother and her, and I actually went in a couple of years before my 8 years to see how she was running the court and make sure that I could do it effectively and efficiently as she was doing it. But as an educator, I think that's the most important, one of the most important things that we do, is that as people in Precinct 7, we do not know the law. We are not educated to the law of things. And that's very important, and one of the things that I've tried to bring. Why is that important? I'll tell you what we do at the court is everything, not everything, but mostly I do both civil and criminal. And civil is very interesting because people think that I marry people, do many things. Most people think it's evictions. And a lot of it is. And I do try to rule in favor of the people, but you have to know the law. I have to rule with the law. And a lot of people in Precinct 7 own property. We're not just renters. So when someone comes, and most of it is that they don't pay their rent, and I ask, well, why didn't you pay your rent, or what's the problem? It is economical a lot of times, but a lot of times they'll give me excuses like, well, the air didn't work this amount of time. Do you know that you can bring them to court? And I can tell you to pay 50 cents. I can tell you to pay $1 because something doesn't work. But you yourself cannot just decide, I'm not going to pay the rent this month.
Good information.
You know, and some people will say that, I think, because they just don't know that they can come to court and do that. Others, it's just an excuse. And in the court, I never go with, he said, she said. You always have to have evidence and show me what it is as it relates to the law. So we also, if it's under $20,000, you can sue each other. If it's over $20,000, you have to go downtown to civil court. But we do hear civil courses. We also, besides the civil cases, we hear debt collections, where the debt collectors come in if you just don't pay, you get a MasterCard and you just don't pay it. And we listen, and so we follow all of the laws that are in there. We have administrative cases that we hear. Some are different. And then, of course, we have criminal. I have downstairs Smokey James Phillips is right there with me. So as a matter of fact, they just moved. They still have a crossway, but I gave them downstairs because they needed more space, and they're doing such a good job. But I'm also getting unusual criminal cases. Like I had a case where, now I only hear the criminal cases if they don't do what they're supposed to do with the DA. And they meet with the DA. I can't be in there because I don't want to hear their case in case I have to rule with it. But we have Harris County district attorneys that work with them, try to keep it off their record, everything that they could do. If they don't do what they were supposed to do, to pay whatever it is, or take an anger management class, or do things to affect their life, then they see me. And I've had, believe it or not, criminal case where a father let his child bring a gun to school in their backpack. You remember that case? And she talked about the gun violence that's coming. It's now coming into the JP courts. We're having all sorts of things that are beginning to happen and come to us. So I've been raised for all of that. I've been trained for all of that. I know politics. I go to D.C. to caucus. I used to almost every year when Sheila Jackson Lee was there, and I know politics. But the JP court is not a political situation like the other two speakers have explained it to be, as much as it is your life and your justice. And all of those things are happening. Like they talk much about ICE. I remember being on the court on the bench and people started coming running in court. ICE is at Benihana. It's across the street, Judge. ICE is at Benihana. What are we going to do? Well, let me say, as judge, I will say that no matter what you are, if you don't speak English, I have at least 4 clerks that speak Spanish so that we can get your case taken care of. Also, I have Asian representative that's a clerk. She doesn't speak in multiple languages, but people should feel comfortable and do there. We do the best that we can with what we have, and since we've had COVID to arise, things have been changing and changing a lot, people's attitudes. But you have to follow the law. Now, should you face a problem, then I can't help you, but I can refer you. And if it's eviction, every Tuesday, Lone Star comes into our court with a table there to help you and provide legal help, that if you've done something or the landlords have done something that they think they can help you, then they come with you before me. So we do, and they aren't the only one. I have multiple nonprofits. I refer, if you want to hear or your church wants to come with you, then that's fine. So we do follow the law. It's just that I can't. Must follow the law, and so does my staff. We cannot give you attorneys advice or pro bono services or some of the things that people want. And so I'm real pleased at what we're doing and how we're doing it, Carolyn.
I think so. Actually, I'm a retired educator, and there's really no such thing.
True.
You are always
True.
trying to educate somebody about something.
That's true.
Right. And you just gave me some information to say that people don't really realize that when things go wrong in their apartments and they have to incur expense, then, your refrigerator goes out, you don't have food in the refrigerator, then you can come to court and maybe you can get all of that reduced. But if you do it on your own, you're on your own. But to know that information, that is great information. And so,
and most
education
people say
is
I'm
important.
fair and honest. That when I ask people,
That's
they say,
important.
"Judge, you didn't rule for me, but you was fair." So that
That's
I
all you
stick
can
by
ask,
education
is
and
that
the law.
first and foremost, I know it's very difficult when you have to follow the law that's going to evict people, but you have to follow it. I know it's some nights, you probably go home and cry about it because you have such a wonderful heart.
Wow.
And that is very, very important. And so I want to move on. You've told us about your past work and your educational experience, and you've kind of told us what goes on in your court today. And another good thing is that you have combined resources with Place One, with Judge Wanda Adams.
That's
She's
true.
not running against Judge Wanda Adams, who
No,
we
I'm not.
love dearly. But they have combined resources. You heard Dr. Plummer talk about combining resources because of the money. And so certainly, if she can refer somebody to go right around the corner to the court, and it's literally around the corner, and get some resources and some help, then that is the way to go. And so I think that is just wonderful. But I want to go on. Let's talk about your political life.
Okay.
And I know that you are a lifelong Democrat.
I am. I'm a lifelong Democrat. But let me say this, is when people come before me in the courtroom, I don't know what you are. I don't know if you're Republican or, I don't even tell people, maybe I like blue hair or green hair or anything, because I don't want it to seem as though I'm prejudicing anybody. I don't want to know what language. I don't want to know what party. However, I am a lifelong Democrat. Been all my life, and like I said, I've been to Washington, even internationally. I've been when Mandela was elected president. I've always been for the fairness of people and worked politically across the board.
Well, I know you may not want to talk about it, but we're just going to kind of get down to the nitty-gritty here. I know your opponent is now a Democratic precinct judge.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Now, she was a Republican precinct judge before, was she not?
Yes, on the literature. I've done a lot of research on it because I wanted to see how she's run twice as a Republican for judge. Now, like I said, I've been there 8 years. I'm the incumbent. When I ran, I became one of what they call Houston's 19. There were 19 black women judges that were elected in Houston, and we still hold that record. We made the New York Times, we made Marie Claire magazine, we made Essence magazine. So Houston's kind of known for that. Atlanta has run 15, and they come in second, but Houston still holds it number one. When I ran, which was the year that I first ran, when Zanetta Burney, my mother, retired, I ran. She ran as a Republican judge and was in that slot, and then has been under a different name and has since run as a Republican under a different name, but now she's running as a Democrat twice. And once in our area, she was a precinct chair. I think she was president of the Daughters of the Republic or something. But she's been a Republican for many years and given contributions to Greg Abbott, to the lieutenant government, and whether or not she voted for Trump is rumored. I'm not rumoring it, but others have. And during those years that, not this time around, but the first time he ran, she was a Republican and running as a Republican.
I mean, that's very important, because certainly back when Donald Trump ran the first time, if she was a Republican then she voted in the Republican primary. Let's just be real about it. And I'm just going to say, you know, if it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. So, you know, and I'm just saying this because, you know, Republicans are trying to get in where they fit in. And sometimes they look like
And they
us.
want our land, democratic principles, and the
And
land.
I'm going to
and
tell you,
sunshine.
sometimes there are Trojan horses. Okay, you know about Trojan horses, those that get in, okay, and then they do things when they get in.
One thing
But-
I will say that she's promising, Carolyn, she is out telling people that she's going to have night court and Saturday weekend court. That's not possible. Judges all over the city are calling me saying we told her we'd be doing it if we could have, but we can't. For one thing, is because we work in partnership with other departments. That means Harris County would have to provide DAs. That would mean that smoke constables would have to provide. HPD would come in. You'd have all kinds of things, and we don't have the budget to do that.
Okay, well, you know, in closing on that, I'm just going to say you got to be aware of people in sheep's clothing. That wool gets hot. Okay, that wool can get hot.
May I say one
and
thing?
then, you know, we need really, you know, we're in a real conundrum now because of the Republican leadership. And so we need to make sure that we can close the dam because the water is coming in. And so you had something else you
Just
wanted
one
to say?
thing I want to say, often people are asking about the future. There's nothing bad going on. Everything's good in my court, but I'm concerned about truancy because I'm not getting the youth that I want. So the old teacher is coming out of me again, that I am concerned about your youth, your children not going to school and different things. So thank you so much.
Go ahead.
And no, I think we're going to be wrapping up soon. You know, as we talk about Democrat and Republican, I think we are at a critical juncture in our nation's history right now. And it is not hyperbolic to say that democracy is on the ballot. So they are coming for our free and fair elections. That is one of the reasons my background is in voting rights and civil rights. And one of the reasons I decided to run for county attorney was because of how critical this is right now. And I was involved in the challenges to the state's voter photo ID that was ruled to be a modern day poll tax. And we are saying that, right, the SAVE Act now at the federal level is that same, I'm going to say on the podcast, that same shit. And
That's
I
her,
said
y'all. That's the real Abby Cameron. She is
But
for real.
you
She's
have-
the real deal.
You have candidates that are in a runoff, and it is so important to participate. Judge, say when the runoff is.
May the 26th is the runoff, but there's early voting May 18th through May 22nd.
And
So
then-
please.
And then we get to the November general, and we saw unprecedented, just inspiring turnout in the primary. And that momentum has to continue. But we have the longest ballot in the country. And like my ballot was, I don't know about y'all, my ballot was like 117 pages. I tried to bring my kid in with me. He was like running around by the end of that thing. But county attorney and county judge and judges which are all very different positions, but they're all towards the bottom. And we've got to vote all the way down because Greg Abbott and the Republican machine, the MAGA machine, we're not talking about moderate Republicans willing to work across the aisle or anything like that. We're talking about this MAGA extremism that is going to pour millions of dollars into Harris County. So we have to make sure, and so I'm taking a
Please.
moment of privilege
Absolutely.
to say,
Please.
turn out in special elections, turn out in the runoffs, and then in November, show up and vote all the way down the ballot because we have to, again, protect our democracy. It's that real.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say, I'm going to repeat, on May 26th, and from May 18th to May 22nd, the ballot will not be that long.
Correct.
So you can literally get in and get out. And so please do not forego that election. You have Dr. Plummer that will be on the ballot. Certainly you will have Judge Burney. And Judge Burney, you are endorsed by the Houston Black American Democrats, are you not?
I am. I'm reduced by them, but I'm also induced by the trade union and several other, all these people down here, and then I'm endorsed as well by lots of city officials. I don't have a current card of that, but Ms. Shabazz was one of them. I mean, I could go down the
I really
list.
do believe in you. I really
the
do.
mayor, I know that she does. People were surprised. It looks like I was a serious politician on the run when you looked at my card, but you can go to my website and still see that, how many people are endorsing me. And it's a pleasure being, most of them that, again, being in your own precinct, in this precinct, I think is important. I told someone if I won the lottery, I'd still run because who I'm running runoff against, Precinct 7 doesn't disturb her. I'm fighting for your legacy is what I'm really fighting for. I mean, I could go to the beach and live the rest of my life, but I'm fighting for us.
It's a calling. It's a calling. It's a calling. And so certainly, I think we're going to cut to our sponsor right now. I feel like I'm on a commercial. You're going to give us a commercial? I don't know if we're going to get the opportunity to talk to Jeffrey Boney.
Jeff.
And if not, you can do your thing. This is your beautiful studio.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm so honored to be here, and you're right. We feel like, we're at the commercial break. But you know what? The information, Dr. Shabazz and the judge and Abby has been so. This has been so informative. You know, we wanted to stay beyond the ballot, but you gave us a lesson beyond basic. That basic political stuff. You know, you kind of educated us and talked about why. And I'm hoping that people will take this as a reason to vote and understand that why it's so important that we do that, because you guys represent us when you lead. I mean, we have to get to know you, and I think tonight you've shown a great light. And since I'm doing a commercial, and we talk about this showroom, I am Danette Davis, and this is the K Davis showroom plus mostly greens. And the business day to day, and for those who like to list their logo and hang out with us and stuff like that, we got a little package for you. But we sell furniture, and a lot of things we do with the regular business is furniture with schools and colleges and public entities and things like that. So this is our everyday. These are you are the people that we interact with every day, and we know how important your jobs are. And what you do, right? And we sell furniture, but we do that in a way that you get what you need. Just like you talked about, I too work for the state, so I know all about that institution where we used to get stuff from because we had to, and that they weren't being paid, and I think that says a lot about what you guys are doing. A lot of people didn't and don't know that those kind of things happen. Now, K Davis in the Community, which is our proud producer, it's the nonprofit. It's how we show our love and how we give back to the community. This District D, the District of Destination that Dr. Shabazz has shared. And honestly, guys, to have Dr. Shabazz host, she's just everything you see. For everything I've ever asked her to do with the nonprofit, she's always said yes. Beyond, from working with us with facilities to shows. I love art, so we'll have a documentary or something, a film. We did the thing with Sharita's here tonight. We did the George Floyd statute, and we did the Warrior statute, and all of that. And then friends and partners like Dr. Shabazz make all those things possible. So we really thank you for agreeing to host tonight and bring the information. Right? So I want Lauren. Lauren is the director for KDA in the Community Foundation. She doesn't talk much, but I had a practice.
like
I had a practice a few minutes ago.
You
I
look
said,
like
"You're
you're
gonna take
getting ready
them.
to sing. You gonna sing?
You're gonna take them down through our program, through our programs that we offer." And so, like I said, let's go, Lauren. If you just take them real quickly.
Okay, so we have the RAC grant. It's a direct.
To your mouth.
Too long. Okay, RAC
No.
grant. Oh. And my mom was a speech therapist. She's probably looking down at me right now.
Right.
Lauren, really.
The great Barbara Marshall.
Okay, so we have the RAC grant. We give direct relief to individuals and families going through a temporary situation. We have our community public arts partnerships, which, as Ms. Davis mentioned, we have the Warrior statue that's at TSU, the TSU Museum. We have the George Ford statue out at Tom Bass. We have our Art Mentee Mentor program where aspiring artists, we bring them in. You know, they get a mentee like Ange.
Who's here tonight?
Yes, thank you, Ange. And they get to introduce themselves, the audience gets to know them, they get to sell their work. We also have our community arts partnership,
Right.
where we engage students who are interested in art in the schools. So it's engagement and enrichment. And we have our Nourish and Flourish that we partner with Chef Eddie with Mostly Greens Co., as you know, with his healthy farm-to-table food and healthy eating, so it's nutrition and education. And we're also, we have Trending Tuesday Showcast, even though it stands on its own, when you know, it's not just a podcast, but a show. Because
It's a showcast, because you guys are here, and we thank
exactly.
you.
Thank
Our
you very
audience
much. Yes.
is here.
And I guess we're moving into affordable homes as well, affordable housing.
Yeah, we're not saying a whole lot about that,
Yeah.
but we received, thank you, the City of Houston, we've gotten some our arts program. We've gotten a couple of grants. One of them, Camp Logan, we'll have a short doc that's coming up that they funded. And they give us a little bit for this show, for the work we do. We're excited. Lauren said RAC grant. It's random acts of kindness. And what we mean by that, there are folk that, just like they run into your court, Judge Bernie,
Yes.
they say, if I just had, I remember my daughter asked me about a friend of hers. She just needed some cancer treatment, and she just needed to pay her car note. Just 2 months. Just, you know what I'm saying? A RAC, sometimes we just need that bump to the next level.
Yeah.
And we find that that's something that's valuable. And we do that. We work with the church across the street. Our pastor's here, and he's here.
Thank you,
You guys
Pastor.
park in his parking lot, which he lets us do for free. When we have our big events, we have our valet out there, and they still park in his parking lot, or what have you. And we partner. We partner with him on events. We've done some things. We adopt schools, and we do Christmas things and things like that. We just feel like being in the community actually means being in the community, right? And I think the last thing I want to bring up before I have Mr. Cage come up and give you an announcement of some things going on is our Cage Closet. I don't know if we've got our picture up. Chelsea, you gave me an idea about Cage Closet. They tell me now kids like thrifting. It's a new thing. Back in the day, it was the resale shop or consignment shop. But because, this is we put this little thing together because it's prom season, right? And so this is a pop-up thing that we'll be doing often here and over at the other office, but we will have a permanent location, we want to say within a year. And so when we do the pop-ups, if we ask you we say prom season and you got prom dresses, understand, we'd say a prom dress for $2. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody really can't afford it, we just do the RAC grant thing and just shift it on, and they get it at no cost. See, that's the kind of thing. We think we're supposed to be that kind of addition to a community. So we know we're partnered with the right person, Dr. Shabazz. And if you come up, this gentleman, too, works for the city. And, they're all the same. Whenever I ask them to do anything, they're here, so we thank you.
It's truly an honor and a pleasure, Ms. Davis, in all that you do. And it really does take a village, right? Mrs. Davis' brother, Mr. Davis, actually raised me, and he was one of the first Crestmont Park Civic Club presidents. And as we look over 40 years now, my father, who's been in that office now for roughly about 38 or 39 years, has been there. And we are still being active in the community by doing our 12th annual Easter egg hunt for the Crestmont Park, South Park area. And without the support of the community, as well as our councilwoman, who has really paved the way for so much for us to be able to have annual Easter egg hunt. We are just ecstatic to be able to give almost over 500 kids an Easter egg experience that they probably normally wouldn't be able to experience. A lot of times when people say they come to the community, they end up stopping at Sunnyside or Third Ward. And we're just bringing it all the way to what they used to call the dead end, and just making sure that those kids on that side get all that they would love and deserve during this Easter season. So thank you, Ms. Davis, for the platform. Thank you, both panelists. And, it'll be April the 4th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. April the 4th, this Saturday at Crestmont Park, 5200 Selinsky. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
if I could, Rashad Cave is thebomb.com. He didn't. I
Right.
don't even know if he gave his name, but he shows up for a lot of our events. He has a heart of gold. I mean, he's definitely a chip off the old block. His
Right.
dad, Charles Cave, has done a lot. And I'm telling you, Rashad has taken the ball and he's run with it. He does work for the city,
Right.
but he comes and he makes sure that things are done. And so he's been a great partner as well. So Rashad Cave, y'all remember that name.
Rashad Cave. And you're right, I do know your dad very well. And I've known him for years, and he's an engineer, and we work together. So I think as we close, I think, Carolyn, did you want questions, or would you field a question or two if someone had questions?
Yeah, sure.
Do we
If
have
y'all
any
wanna
questions?
ask them questions?
Anybody with any questions at all? Now, they talked about a lot
And
of
thank
things.
you for the audience being here. And certainly if you have questions of these two ladies, no, I'm kidding.
Right.
I'll answer too.
Exactly. Now,
But
the judge,
certainly, if you have any questions that you want to ask, we can take that time to do that. I see Danny Norris over there. He's another. He's an attorney for the city.
Exactly.
And he's a phenomenal young man. He recently ran, and he's going to eventually win because he has the heart and the spirit of service.
Yeah, you're
and
on
so
screen.
certainly, I'm putting in a plug for Danny Norris.
Right?
Right.
Exactly.
And
These guys show up when I ask. So if anybody...
You have a question?
Anybody?
Okay, Abby
I have a
Kamen has a
question.
question.
Okay.
so you said Camp Logan in this documentary. Can you share more about that? So just so the audience knows, I grew up down the road from
Okay.
Memorial Park. And one of the things that just gets to me is that so many people don't even know why it's called Memorial Park.
Exactly.
They don't know about Camp Logan.
Right.
And shout out because we just did the groundbreaking for Memorial Groves,
Okay.
which is going to honor all of our veterans in the history of Memorial Park.
Right.
But with Camp Logan also the 24th Infantry.
Exactly.
And we do not talk enough about that. I worked very closely with a lot of the partners that work
Okay.
for Clemency, but I want to hear more about what y'all are doing
That's
around
right, Don.
that. Yeah.
Actually, because I'm on the board for the ensemble, right? So when we did Camp Logan, and Celeste Bethel-Blanco, who's also a friend of mine and a extremely talented playwright, when I watched that particular production, it's my heart, right? And the story, for those who don't know,
Yeah.
Camp Logan, literally Memorial Park. If you go, now there's a very little sign, but it's there, and it tells you that those soldiers who died that night and all of the things that happened, it is a memorial for them. And there's a whole story about that, and we don't talk about Houston history enough, okay? And the thing that's so wonderful, and the reason we asked for the grant, because we did the show, and we had the person who wrote the book and followed her around for 7 years. We had the attorney who literally, South Texas School of Law,
Yep.
they will lobby to take the case. She's a female. She's also a veteran. They were veterans, both. Because when you when you figure out the commitment, and then Wayman Clyde Lemon, who's a classmate of mine, who's also a veteran, who went to them with it, working with NAACP to ask, would you please look into this?
And Nick Little is here with NAACP as well, who also has been a
Oh.
huge advocate on this.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
Nick-
See,
Very much
okay.
so.
In the
Yeah.
house, right? That thing, if you can imagine, 1917. If you can imagine 2024, at 2024 to get clemency, it was more than 100 men who were now exonerated.
Yes.
They get to be, their families, there's, what's the right word for it? I think they were compensated.
Descendants.
Yeah, because that's a long time, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, somebody stayed in there and hung in there enough to care that the name was cleared. You know what I'm saying? Somebody cared enough, and they took that fight to them. And for the United States Army to say we were wrong, I mean, that's major to me. And they literally, all those guys got clemency. They get to be buried now with the rest of the soldiers. It's a big deal.
It's
You
the
get me?
largest clemency in U.S. military
History.
History.
Okay? And those were all, and they were black soldiers who just didn't understand this Southern thing that goes on, and they stood up against it, and there were some things that happened. The agency that, when you talk Memorial, you said you're working with the group that,
Yeah, so I worked with South Texas College of Law with the Buffalo Soldiers
Oh,
Museum
okay.
with NAACP, but
Okay.
now with the Memorial Park Conservancy in
'Cause, yeah,
District
yes.
C. So the Memorial Groves is going to be a whole new part of the park
Right.
that honors all of our veterans and they're also going to be recognized through the 24th Infantry, and I'm funding through District C a permanent memorial specifically to the 24th Infantry
Oh, my
there.
goodness.
That's
Oh, wow.
no, it's what's needed, because again, when we don't understand our history, and this is American history,
Destined
this
to
isn't-
repeat it.
It will be repeated.
yes, it will.
And we have that responsibility for future generations.
We do.
And it's just like Juneteenth. This is
Right.
the home of Juneteenth, but for so long that story wasn't shared. And now we have
National.
this.
Right.
And it's so important. So I thank you all for this work, because again, I'm looking back at
Oh,
Nicholas
look,
and
he's got some
others.
tape up.
And like you mentioned, Clyde Lemon, it's such a team effort, but the work has to be done. So I just was so thrilled to learn.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
And we're doing it as a short doc, and as you can see, we caught wonderful scenes. I mean, those guys were
We're not supposed to worry
were
about
strong.
checking their IDs anymore, so I just ignore them, Moses. Well, I ain't ignoring it no more. The next one pull a trick like that on me, getting a bullet.
Hey, you all fool around by yourself court-martial.
Look who's talking. He tried to make a white National Guardsman salute you last
okay.
night.
All right.
Try?
Okay.
Now,
We-
I
we-
gave him salute.
We don't want to ruin it for him.
And the
What
next
we'll
thing
do,
I knew-
what we do though, in between the scenes, because we had our hands on Celeste, and the person that wrote the book and lived through it, the person that won the case, and then others in town, what we'll do is set up the scenes with short docs, and then take you back. We want people to enjoy it, so we want to use the theater, the theatrics of it, so it's not so boring as a documentary. But we want it to live, and it's going to be presented. We have to do it 5 times, and we're hoping that one of them is in Emancipation Park,
Oh, yeah.
of course, and we're going to go to our
In
friends.
which district?
And the ensemble is
Indeed,
yeah.
district of destination.
Right. So anyway, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of things that we do. So anybody that's interested in hanging out with us, the only last thing is, I don't know if the chef is in there. If y'all don't have questions, if he can just come and share the meal. One of the things she mentioned, Nourish and Flourish. Well, Kay's Closet, I guess, if you hear about us and we ask you for something, we tell folk, this is not what you were going to throw in the trash can. It's the things that these are just these are clothes for people that they would want to wear. We want Kay's Closet to be things, most of us, if you buy, we just, I'm never going to wear that again, let's be honest. That kind of stuff, the kind of things we want to do. And we say things for the girls and things like that. That's what we want you to know. It's representative here with Kay's Closet. I had a niece who inspired this. We lost her. She's only 52 years old. But she had so many clothes. She had tags on the clothes. And you know what? Kay's Closet will be Keisha's Closet. And for the last thing, I think I wanted my husband to come and tell you what you were going to be eating.
He's coming.
He's over there setting it up.
He's working.
Okay. I know we have black eyed peas because I tasted them. You want to real quickly, husband, and then we'll close.
Hey, all right. I got my dinner bell. We're ready. That's a good sign. Thanks again for coming, everyone. Another momentous occasion for momentous moments. So we thank you for hanging out with us. I'm honored again, once again, to prepare some wholesome foods mostly from the garden, mostly from our organic seasonal choice. So I want to thank y'all, and please enjoy yourself. So starting off, we have my signature Swiss chard and sardines. It's the green Swiss chard this time, with some Ortiz sardines. I love those Ortizes in olive oil. And then we have some roasted sweet potatoes and ginger and butter. We have some roasted yellow sweet onions with some onions from the garden as a garnish on top as roasted. And we have organic jasmine rice. We've got organic black eyed peas loaded with okra and an extra side dish of okra as well. And we have ground lamb. And so we got some choices, a little bit for everyone. We're going to do some infused rosemary water too for you guys. So that's coming out in a second. So, and hopefully we can get a chance to pour some wine and some other stuff. So enjoy. I'm happy you're here, and eat up.
It doesn't get any better.
Thank you.
I mean, to come to this beautiful studio, have this wonderful conversation, and then to end it with a wonderful meal, you don't get better than that.
Oh, thank you. And I know, like, Jeff's gonna bless his heart. He, but it's late. But he just called me or whatever and stuff like. He's pulling up. So, but we'll grab his conversation and we'll share it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Enjoy. Next time.
Thank you.
Oh, wonderful.
I want to get
Pleasure. I
some
am
food.
too. I'm so glad.
We gotta keep going.
I know it. We will.
Where them fans at?